Everyone, today I'm talking to Jaimee, who is an ICN Bikini Pro. Jaimee's been working with Amber for 5 years now, Jaimee? I think it is, probably longer.
Yeah, about 5 years. Yeah.
5 years, cool. What we're going to do today is just cover Jaimee's journey in bodybuilding, the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, and get a bit of a back behind the scenes story from her as well. So thanks, Jaimee, for joining. Another thing I would like to add is Jaimee is also my sister, so I'm also very proud of her, which is pretty cool. Cool to share something as, a family as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What got you into it in the first place?
Well, over the course of university, when I was at university, I was quite sedentary. I kind of dabbled in the gym a bit at the start of my university, and then I fell off and was really sedentary. I was living a pretty unhealthy lifestyle,
Yeah.
lots of drinking and partying and just eating whatever I wanted, really. And then towards the end of uni, I decided it was time for me to kind of start looking after myself a bit more. And I actually started with doing yoga, which I think is really beneficial for a lot of people. And I should probably be doing that a bit more still, but
Right.
that really got me thinking about how I could start living a healthier lifestyle. And I started in early or late 2018, I'd say. I kind of started going to the gym and tracking macros, and I was doing that by myself. And then when I started full-time work in 2019, that's when I decided it was time to get some help from Amber, because what an amazing resource I have in my family, and you weren't personal training at the time.
No.
So I decided to get some help from Amber, and we got a program going. And then I decided that, we decided together that I wanted to compete. And so we set our sights on 2020, and that's when I did my first show.
First show. And who did you compete with your first show? Do you remember?
I did WFF for my first show.
Cool. And you took overalls on that one, didn't you?
Not overalls. I took, I think, junior, because I was junior at the time.
Yeah. That's
And
right.
short. And short.
Yeah, the story of our family. Short.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, cool. And so that was your first show. And what was your experience like on your first show? How did it feel?
Well, leading into my first competition, I don't think I've ever had to follow something so regimented in my life. And it's kind of hard in your first show as well, because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was really focused, following the plan. And I actually remember I was listening to a podcast, and in the podcast, they said, "Oh, well, sometimes I just go off plan and I have to have that cookie." And I was mind blown, because in my head, cheating on the diet had never even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
But then it was kind of bad, because that kind of put that in my mind.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, oh, well, to some people, some people actually cheat on their diet, so I suppose I could cheat on my diet as well.
Yeah.
So there was a big learning curve for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want to talk more about the mindset a little bit
definitely.
later on that developed over the few years. But that first competition, I just went in thinking, well, I'll just see how it goes. And, you and Amber were the only ones that were truly supporting me, because you understand, and everyone else is like, oh, this should be your only show that you do, you shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I don't think it's anything bad, the family just see you suffering, and they're like, oh, why are you suffering, for a show? You don't do it anymore. But at the same time, it's like, well, I'm choosing to do this. I understand that I'm suffering, but I can stop at any time, but I'm not going to, because if I can do this, something that's really, really hard, the world's your oyster, right? You can do so many other things.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. So I just went in with the mindset thinking, oh, well, I'll see how it goes, and I might like it and I might not like it.
Yeah.
And I stepped on the stage and I had my sparkly bikini and my tan and everything, and I fucking loved it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it was all on from there.
One, yeah. Yeah, it's a thing. You do one and you either love it or you hate it. And you're like, yeah,
Mm,
this is me. I resonate with this. And, you're not a very showy person in life anyway,
no,
and similar to myself. So we don't often, I don't like taking selfies. I hate it. You don't even have social media. So
no,
it's
not
not
really.
really your thing to be posting photos of all that kind of stuff anyway. So it's a weird thing to think about that you're getting up on stage and your underwear showing your muscles or showing your body to strangers, right?
True.
It's very, very
It is
strange.
weird.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But it's not like that at the time, is it? Because everyone's in the same position. And, you're in
Mm,
backstage and you're surrounded by everyone doing the same thing. You're all tanned up. And it's completely normal to be in that and look like that and have that environment. And you don't really even think about, I'm standing around in my undies anymore. It's just
no, not really.
yeah.
I think that first time backstage, it was kind of, we were separated into boys and girls room, which is quite nice. I quite
Yeah.
like it when they do that.
It's,
But then even like after doing, how many shows have I done? 7 shows. I don't even see anyone. Like if I feel like I'm looking at people, it's because I'm like, oh, she looks like she's a nice person and I want to be friends with her.
yeah.
Or like just a really impressive physique. Like, wow, that person must work their ass off. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
mean, you just get used to it, I
yeah,
think.
you become numb to it all, don't you? Really, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So then that was your first show, and then you competed again the following year as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had a pretty short off season. And mind you, this was all throughout COVID. So this was 2020 and 2021. So I
Yes.
think the next year my shows were bumped back like month after month after month. I think I started prep in March or April.
Yeah.
Um, and then my comps ended up being maybe October or November and December,
Yes.
which was way later than what
Yeah.
we were planning. And I was just like trying to hold my condition for ages and then kind of like, oh, let's reverse a little bit. Oh, we'll need to pull it back some more, reverse a little bit,
Yeah.
pull it back some more. And being natural and not having a lot of muscle anyway, I think I lost quite a bit of my muscle, and I think that was quite detrimental for holding my condition as well. For me at that point, I think I didn't have enough muscle to be able to really hold my condition well enough.
That is a
Mm.
consequence to any really hard diet, and when you're extending it out because of COVID and issues like that, there's always going to be a compromise, right? So, yeah, it's one of those hard decisions that you kind of, in hindsight, you're like, maybe I should have pulled pin or done something differently. But yeah, it's one of those things that when you're in the headspace of I'm competing, like
Yeah.
you just kind of lose focus of the long term a little bit as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I do think that my posing improved a lot though. I
Yeah.
had a lot of time to practice my posing, and my posing, I worked with Katia, who's based in Auckland, and she is an amazing posing coach, really, really great for IFBB. So I'd recommend her
Mm.
totally for New Zealand-based people. And I think working with her that season really, really honed my posing. I did IFBB. I did 2 IFBB shows that year,
Yes.
regional and nationals, and I didn't place very well that year. Like maybe some 4th, some 6th.
Yeah.
Not
Not
very
really
well,
what
but
to be.
like
Yeah.
I said, I think both my conditioning and my muscularity was not doing me any favors that year.
Yeah. And then you took a year off after that, was it? Or you
Yeah.
you took a year off, eh? Yeah. And
And
built up.
that's when I decided, like, mentally, I felt like I needed a bit of a break
Yeah.
because I've been prepping for so long and had such a short off season. I really wanted to work on my mindset and my self-belief. And
So what was
I
going
need
on with
I
that
knew that
side of things? Well, sorry, what was going on with the
um
mindset and self belief for you? Was it coming out of the last comps where you didn't do as well as what you might have liked, and then felt a little bit
yeah.
unsure about yourself?
Well, I think I always struggled with low self-esteem and poor self-belief
Mm.
anyway. And to be successful in anything you do, I think you have to believe in yourself.
Yeah,
And I knew that even when I didn't believe in myself, I knew that I had to believe in myself. So I knew that I had some kind of inner work to do to reach that. Um, and I thought it would just be better to do that in the off season. I mean,
yeah,
it's a continuous thing that we're working on,
yeah,
but it's almost easier to believe in yourself when you're losing weight because you kind of program yourself. You see the scale,
yeah.
and you're losing weight, so then you kind of. But it almost feels like a
Like,
fake self belief. It's not genuine.
yeah,
So I think in the off season is the time to really work on that mindset. And also when you're not worrying about doing like 45 minutes, an hour cardio a
yeah.
day, you've just
Not
got
putting
more
time.
time
Yeah.
to work on things.
Yes, definitely. And that's what the
So
off
what was the
season is
question?
for. I remember. Yeah, I think. Well, I think with the off season, that's what it's for, right? It's the off
Yeah.
season. What I say is, it's preparation for your prep. You got to prepare yourself in the off
Mm,
season to be in the best condition, best headspace. Everything's sorted in your life to go into this prep now that is going to challenge you every step of the way, and probably have some life challenges mixed in along the way with it.
mm.
But yeah, so 'cause did you, when you went through that mindset and growth for you, you went and saw someone about it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So that's the other thing that I hadn't spoken about. That season where I did those two shows,
Yes.
but it almost feels like I did more shows that season because I had so many dates set for the
Yeah.
show days. But after that first show that I did, um, I started getting into this. Like another thing that I've struggled with for a long time is, as well as my self doubt and my poor self esteem, I struggled with food issues, which I know so many people do.
Yeah.
And so many bodybuilders do because
Yeah.
it's like the whole body image and
Yep.
food and everything is so interrelated. Um, but I ended up, but I was starting to binge, and like I've never binged before like I was then. I was binging like I knew, okay, this is like I'm mentally unwell because this is out of control. I was binging and then I started purging
Right.
as well. And I'd
Yeah.
be at work and I'd like, look, I'd be in the middle of work and I'm a nurse, so I've
Yeah.
got like an important job. I'm looking after sick babies, and I'd be like, this food would just take over my head. And this is, I know I've got another show coming up as well, right? So
Yeah.
I've done one show and I've got another show coming up, and all I can think about was food. And I'd just eat and eat and eat, and then I'd think, oh fuck, what have I done? And then I'd go to the toilet and purge at work. And I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
It didn't happen much,
Yeah.
but it didn't take much for me to go, okay, I need to
Think
get
in
some
that field.
help because
Yeah.
I'm not living my life like this. And
Yes.
I've seen, and everyone knows, like there's a lot of women who are older and they're still dealing with food issues.
Mm.
Women and men, but particularly women, they will deal with these issues with food their whole life.
Yeah.
And I was in my mid-20s and I thought, I'm not, my life, it's the only thing you've got with you for
Yeah.
for your life, your body, your health, your mind. And I think I know I had to invest in that. So I reached out to someone who I'd heard in a podcast that I'd been listening to. I love podcasts. Her name's Celeste,
Yeah.
and she is a counselor that specializes in working with people with challenges with food. And she's a bodybuilder herself. She's a bikini athlete. And so I reached out to her and I ended up doing a 6-week program, I think, with her. It was
Yeah.
quite intense. And I did that as I was reversing out of the second show with her. So I would think she really, really helped me with my mindset, and I haven't felt the same ever since, in the best way possible. I haven't binged. I've been able to reverse. I definitely haven't purged.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we're all human, and sometimes we don't eat perfectly.
Yeah.
But with the tools that she's taught me, I'm able to enjoy food when it's appropriate. Maybe sometimes when it's not appropriate as well, but still like
The
take it
balance is a
for what
lot
it
more
is.
in a positive way, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
and not and I'm in control,
Yes. I
and
think
that's
that's
the
the biggest thing,
difference.
the control. Like often food controls us, and that's what you are
Mm,
alluding to as well with other people, and like women, like you say in particular, have been
mm,
raised to look. Scales are a big deal. Look a certain way. Flat stomachs, all that kind of bullshit, and it's not fair, right? But and it creates a lifetime of looking at yourself and judging yourself and not understanding that you actually have to eat to survive, and there's nothing wrong with food. It's important. You got to eat it. Carbs aren't bad. Fats
and
aren't bad. Yeah, yeah. It's just
it goes both ways as well, because like they want to look a certain way,
yeah,
but also quite often these women, they've not given themselves any other way to feel joy,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
I mean, sometimes alcohol, which isn't the best
No,
coping mechanism either, but if the only thing that brings you joy and gives you that dopamine hit is food, then
yeah. That's why you
you're
keep going
you're
back to it.
screwed basically. That's just this internal vicious dialogue, which is
Yeah,
awful. And I wanted to escape that while I could. And I
mm,
knew I couldn't do it by myself because I was in deep.
yeah. And I think it kind of alludes to your fact that you weren't had an issue with self-esteem for a long time, and I think a lot of women have that. Well, a lot of people in general have that. And then, like
Mm,
say the dopamine hit from eating something enjoyable makes you feel good about yourself for that short period of time, and then you look at
mm,
yourself in the mirror, you step on the scales, and everything fucking crashes down again. You feel terrible about yourself. So what do? You go back to the thing that makes you feel good, which is the food that probably isn't the greatest choices for you. And
yeah. And
social
then even
effects.
you can't even, I know when I was binging, I wasn't even enjoying the food.
Yeah, yeah, you don't.
Like it's just like an impulsive thing. You're just eating and then you don't even enjoy it. And then afterwards you're like, what the hell have I just done? Like that wasn't even worth it. Why did I do that?
Yeah,
But yeah, so I've got the tools now to prevent me from doing that.
which is great. Yeah.
She's given me lots of amazing tools, and I would totally recommend anyone go to her. She's got a lot of free resources available on her website, so I'll I'll share them with you if you want to link
That'll be
them.
cool. Yeah, I'll link them into the
Yeah,
video. That'll be cool.
yeah.
So reverse diet. You touched a little bit on that with coming out of the reverse, and that's such an important aspect. It's probably more important than the diet itself. The reverse diet.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No,
but,
yeah.
yeah,
Depends what your goal. It depends what the goals are for life. Yes,
yes,
to win a competition,
yeah,
probably the diet's
yeah,
more important.
yeah, yeah. To look good, yeah, you got to get shredded, right? But
Yeah.
how you come out of that diet is only going to set you up for more success in the future with more competitions
Yeah.
and your relationship with food and everything in between, right? So super important. But how's your experience been like that since seeing Celeste and getting those tools to help you?
So since seeing Celeste, I've done one season,
Yeah,
right? So that reverse with her helping was great because I was literally working with her for I think the first 6 weeks of
yeah,
my reverse, which when you've got someone, I think I was messaging, I can't remember exactly, but I was talking to her multiple times a week.
yeah,
And it's like when I say it's intense, with every meal, I was writing things down, like
yeah,
really rewiring my brain and the way I was thinking about things. So
Yeah.
that was good. And then so the next I had that big off season.
Yeah.
And I was really flexible with that. I took quite a big chunk of time eating intuitively,
Yeah.
which I think if you've got the skills to be able to do that, like I've tracked macros for a long time. I've done it so many times, and I know, and I've followed meal plans lots as well. So I kind of know like the amounts of things I have to eat. And I just like, it's just kind of nice not being so focused on it.
Yes.
Because even if you're tracking macros, you're really focused on everything all the time. But if you're eating intuitively, then it frees up your head to think about other things, I think.
Yeah. It's
and
bit
there's
of
a time and a place for that.
Yeah, it's a big skill to have to eat intuitively, and not many people can do it. Not
Oh,
many.
I agree.
We only know what we know, and if you don't know how to
Mm.
change things and improve things, well, you're never going to really be able to get where you want to be.
Yeah, and I'm really quite passionate about nutrition, so I've done a lot of research about that. Like in my spare time, I love watching YouTube and listening to podcasts and reading and listening to audiobooks, and so I've read and listened and learned a lot about food. So I think, and like I said, I've been tracking macros for years, and that's given me the skills. I think, learning how to track macros is a really good long-term investment.
Yep.
Um,
What about, like, how was your training over that off season? What did you focus on?
so that off season, I knew I really wanted to focus on gaining muscle. So I worked with Amber throughout my whole off season, the whole time.
Yeah.
I was since I think either early 2019 or late 2018. I've been working with Amber, who does all my programming. So we were really focused on building my upper body. My upper body was so small.
Yeah.
So like shoulders, I was doing shoulders, and I still do shoulders probably 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I've learned to really embrace training shoulders. I love training shoulders now. It's probably my favorite day.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's quite monotonous bikini training.
That's-
You're either doing hamstrings and glutes, or you're doing shoulders.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
It's a lot of that stuff.
And you're just doing the same patterns of movements. Actually, I did a deadlift competition in that off season.
You did our deadlift comp. You came up to
Yeah. And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun for sure. But I'm definitely not a power lifter. But you got to give it a go.
Yeah.
You got to give it a go.
Yep.
And I loved like being there on the day, and the vibe, and everyone's so supportive and happy to be there. And it's a really cool vibe. But the training, I'm a real stickler for form.
Yes.
And I think that's one thing I love about bodybuilding training. There's different ways to gain muscle, but I do everything very slow and controlled and squeezing. Like especially in bikini, I think the weights don't have to be that heavy. I think if you're doing it really slow and controlled and squeezing, of course, progressive overload is important, and you want your weights to be going up. And I saw a lot of gains when I was doing everything very controlled with big squeezes. So that was really my focus. And we always change the rep ranges up, but usually I'm doing between six would be pretty low for me.
Low,
6 reps of something. That would be unusual, but I like that. So I'm happy when I get that. If you're listening, Amber, I like a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But in my off season, 6 to 15 reps would be
Average, right?
the kind of
Yeah.
range. And sometimes we do less and sometimes we do more. So we just cycle that, really. Otherwise, it's mainly most of the same movements.
Mm.
Hip thrusts. Hip thrusts all the time. I hate hip thrusts. RDLs. I love RDLs. I'd
Yeah.
rather do 100 RDLs than like 10 hip thrusts. And all those usual movements, Bulgarian split squats.
All the glute and hammy movements, all your shoulder
Glute,
movements.
hamstrings, and shoulders.
Yeah, very much.
In IFBB, you don't show your back for bikini in the back pose or in any pose. But in ICN, you do show your back for bikini. So when I decided that I was going to do ICN, we started doing a little bit more back stuff.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Good. You enjoy that then?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Get to lift a little bit heavier.
That's like another body part to focus on. Now I've got 3.
Yeah. 3.
Instead of 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with it. With bodybuilding in general, it doesn't necessarily equate to, healthy lifestyle, healthy bodies or anything like that. Yes, and, it can, but it's not.
Like functional bodies?
Yeah, it's not about being functional. Yeah. It's just about creating an image and a shape. That's what it's about.
True.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's not always optimally functional, but, that's what, keeping things varied and mobility work, like yoga. Yoga's great. That can also help a lot with that mobility and functional side of things.